Foreign Affairs Minister Chrystia Freeland will return to Washington today to resume negotiations on the North American Free Trade Agreement. Freeland and her counterpart, U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer, left the bargaining table on Friday without a deal. The two sides have so far been unable to resolve key differences over U.S. access to the Canadian dairy market, a cultural exemption for Canada, and the Chapter 19 dispute resolution mechanism. Negotiators have chipped away in pursuit of NAFTA 2, but the top players took a breather yesterday. Freeland appeared at a women's summit yesterday in Toronto, while Lighthizer was overseas to meet with the European Union Trade Commissioner. The trip to Washington is expected to be short. Freeland is scheduled to be at a caucus retreat tomorrow. Ottawa and Washington are hoping to strike an agreement that could be submitted to the U.S. Congress by month's end and would see Canada join a preliminary trade deal the Trump administration reached last month with Mexico. Ontario Premier Doug Ford took the unprecedented step yesterday of invoking a rarely used charter provision known as the Notwithstanding Clause to push ahead with his plan to slash the size of Toronto City Council in the middle of an election, despite a court deeming the move unconstitutional. Ford said his progressive conservative government would also appeal the judgment, which concluded the province's council-cutting legislation was hurriedly enacted and interfered with the right to freedom of expression for both candidates and voters. Ford's use of the Notwithstanding Clause, which gives provincial legislatures or Parliament the ability to override certain portions of the Charter for a 5-year term, drew swift condemnation from critics who said the size of Toronto City Council was not the kind of issue the constitutional provision was designed to deal with. The Premier, whose government is facing other legal challenges on controversial moves such as the scrapping of a modernized sex ed curriculum, said he won't be shy about using the Notwithstanding Clause, known as Section 33 of the Charter, again in the future. Local woman Marie Della meanwhile, has sent in an open letter to MPP Ross Romano in response to Premier Doug Ford's response to Supreme Court Justice Edward Bellababa's ruling against cutting Toronto City Council. Della calls upon MPP Romano as a lawyer and as a provincial representative to speak on the matter. Sault Ste. Marie Pitch 2018 is an opportunity for people in business or interested in starting their own business to see how experienced entrepreneurs make their pitches to potential angel investors in order to raise investment capital to grow their businesses to the next level. Northern Ontario Angels will be hosting this session with the Sault Ste. Marie Innovation Centre, RBC, and the Sault Ste. Marie Chamber of Commerce on Thursday, October 11th at the Quattro Hotel and Conference Centre. Liberal backbenchers are pushing for action on gun violence and irregular border crossers as they prepare for the resumption of Parliament next week and an election 1 year from now. Banning handguns and assault weapons and faster processing of border crossers' refugee claims are among the top recommendation Liberal MPs say they intend to raise with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and his ministers in Saskatoon, where they'll be gathering today at a caucus retreat to plot strategy for the fall parliamentary sitting. But unlike last year, when backbenchers used the annual end-of-summer retreat to berate the government over proposed tax changes that had enraged small business owners, Liberal MPs now seem relatively content with the government's performance as it heads into the countdown to the next federal election. That's despite a challenging summer for the Trudeau government, beset by a court ruling that toppled a central pillar of its climate change strategy, and NAFTA negotiations that have dragged on now without resolution, punctuated by repeated insults and threats to ruin Canada's economy from U.S. President Donald Trump.